personal interest in this topic. I will admit that my main interest in life is meteorites and Mars, not necessarily whether things are planets or not, but I have personal interest in this because, honestly, I'm from the state of Arizona, and Pluto is our planet. We discovered it. And frankly, we have a bit of a complex being the last of the 48 continental United States to become a state. We have a bit of a complex about these things, whether we are something or not. So, they're messing with our planet Pluto, but nonetheless, the other story I'll relate about this being a topic that has come up even before the debate started with Pluto. I had the privilege of serving on a presidential commission a few years ago when President Bush first announced plans to go back to the moon and onto Mars. They formed a presidential commission to make some recommendations to NASA about how to do it, and at that time I was a professor at Arizona State University. And the first call I had from the White House to interview me to be on this presidential commission said, "Well, you're a planetary scientist, right?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, but the moon isn't a planet, so how does that work?" And I said, "Well, it's formed by planetary processes, so, they're kind of all the same thing to us, but we don't worry too much about what we call a planet or what we don't." Well, little did I know that Susan would be all worrying about it a lot more. I think, to me, the value of this dialogue is to force us all to question our assumptions and to push the edge of our understanding. I believe that, when we've discovered weird life on our planet, you guys have probably talked about some biological classification over the last couple of days. There's plenty of things that we may not have classified as life in the definitions that we described it, a long time ago. And this should be a good sign of a healthy scientific endeavor that we are questioning our underlying assumptions and our underlying classification schemes that fundamentally are about allowing us to have a language that describes what we do. And so rather than calling this the Great Planet Debate, I guess I would think of it as the Great Planet Dialogue. And again, dialogue defined as discovering meaning through, meaning flowing through is literally what dialogue means. And meaning or understanding is what we're about here, where debate is to break something, to break it down, break as in kill, kill, kill. Well, maybe that's what we were trying to do to each other here. But to me, this is about creating communities with common understandings of the meaning of things, and you do that through dialogue. So to me, the Great Planet Dialogue is a very rewarding thing. I want to introduce wonderful panel members that we have here. I'm going to give them each a very brief introduction, ask them to say a couple of minutes worth of remarks, and then the main goal here is to create a dialogue here, interaction among the group. Let me just very quickly run through, let's see. All right, I'll do them in the order that they are here. Sitting. So I have to flip through my notes. Hal Levison is a research scientist at the Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado. His principal research interests lie in the area of dynamics of astronomical objects, particularly solar system bodies. His research includes studies of the long-term dynamical behavior of comets, the dynamics of objects in the Kuiper Belt, and the origin and stability of Trojan asteroids and the formation of planets. So that's Hal Levison. Next to him, we have Owen Gingrich, a senior astronomer emeritus at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory and professor emeritus of astronomy and history of science at Harvard University. He chaired, as you probably have already figured out over the last couple of days, he chaired the Planet Definition Committee of the IAU, whose carefully formulated recommendations were overturned in Prague. And next we have Larry Lebowski, who's a right?
No, he just goes by Larry.
Sorry, I always have you in the way there, sorry.
It's an occultation.
Thank you. Larry's a retired planetary scientist and an education specialist at the Planetary Science Institute and University of Arizona. He was the recipient of the Sagan Medal of the Division of Planetary Sciences for his contribution to education and public outreach in the name of planetary science. Mark Sykes is also from the Planetary Science Institute. He's, in fact, the director of it. And PSI, for those of you that don't know, is a private nonprofit corporation headquartered in Tucson, and lots of wonderful planetary scientists work there, and Mark is the mastermind. He's also a member of the Dawn Science team, and you probably spoke some about Dawn yesterday, is that right? So they'll be orbiting Vesta and Ceres later next decade. He has studied Pluto in the thermal infrared and determined that its surface was not isothermal. He's the discoverer of cometary dust trails and numerous interplanetary dust bands arising from recent catastrophic disruptions of asteroids. And finally, David Morrison is a planetary scientist at NASA Ames Research Center in Northern California. He's currently serving as the interim director of the NASA Lunar Science Institute and is a senior scientist at the NASA Astrobiology Institute. He was on the IAU Working Group for Planetary System Nomenclature for 2 decades and is a textbook author and popular writer. And as such, he has experience in communicating planetary science to students and the public. David, I know that you need to leave before the end of the panel. May I ask you, sir, to speak first?
Absolutely. Once again, let me say what a pleasure it's been to be here for this discussion. Very informative. I especially thought these last 2 talks on the dynamical approach and the geophysical approach were each compelling. And it made me once again reiterate what I said earlier this afternoon, that I really hope we don't here try to come up...
Hold on 1 second, David. We're getting some feedback.
Yes.
So let's go to this mic.
Okay. Maybe I just shouldn't be so close.
No, it's something.
Okay. Now that you've interrupted my train of thought.
Sorry.
I hope that we won't try to substitute some sort of committee form definition here to promulgate, as it's almost surely would be better than the IAU definition. But I really think that defining things is not what we're about. From a science point of view, it's understanding things. And from a communications point of view, you have to look at the context and the audience. And I'm reminded, I mentioned earlier in a discussion, the distinction between comets and asteroids. There are lots of differences. If I were talking to amateur astronomers, I'd stress the visual part, that a comet has a tail and an asteroid doesn't. But if I were talking about impacts, I wouldn't make a distinction at all, because what you're hit by hardly matters if you're killed by it. In fact, just on Monday, I was being interviewed by National Geographic, and we talked about this. And they said, well, can't we just call anything that hits us a meteor? And I thought of that, well, that's not quite right astronomically. But sure, why not? And so for their purposes, it was a meteor. And I think that it's important for us to try to improve our understanding of what a planet is, and to improve our communication skills, but not to enforce some sort of definition that we expect others to follow.
Just pass it on down?
Please.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I agree in part, but I think that at some point, particularly when cat's out of the bag and people are making definitions, and that, and we're here discussing that in part, that it does have to be addressed. And actually, listening to the last 2 talks, I think that it is quite possible to put everything together in a happy way that respects both the perspective of the geophysical definition as well as the dynamical definition, as was so laid out previously, and that is by looking at the breadth of each. And the geophysical definition is pretty broad, particularly if you take it to Allen's extremes, and and you can deal with that. In terms of calling things like Triton or Titan as planets, you put a satellite planet in front of it, and it indicates where it is. But then you can also embrace the dynamical perspective, because those objects are a subset of the geophysical planets, and so one could teach the geophysical planets, and then, however one wanted to do it, or at whatever time, one could also hold up the importance of the dynamical perspective as well. And so they don't have to be inconsistent if you start from the broader perspective and include things which encompass a smaller group of objects.